Get ready to quit the build.
Here we go!
The QTB crew is rounding up all the gaming news and hot topics of the week with a little extra something. And here are your hosts, Bruno, Brad, and Nick.
What it do? You're listening to the QTB podcast. I'm your host, Bruno, and with me, the OG boys of QTB. It's Bruno and Nick. What it do? Bringing you some awesome podcast glory.
Oh my gosh, Bruno. Well, yeah, you know, we're hoping Brad will recover here quickly out this week. You know, we've all been kind of through the ringer there in our own ways over the last month or so, and it's someone else's turn. So
it's someone else's turn. We're passing it along virally.
Yeah,
literally virally, because we don't live near each other. So you know,
we're
click on any links.
Don't
that you're not sure what they are.
Unless you have antivirus. Oh my gosh. And even then, don't do it. It's not worth it, man. Risky clicks these days.
Yeah, risky clicks. That's going to be the name of our website. riskyclicks.com. There's probably already one. I don't know.
So like E-Bombs World for the new generation, basically?
Yeah. The kids don't know about E-Bombs World.
Still
and
a
how,
thing.
I know it's still a thing. And that's where you find that's like, what's that? World Star.
Yeah.
You know, the kids aren't screaming World Star anymore. They're screaming, oh, you could be on YouTube or you could be on TikTok. But back in the day, it was, you could be a World Star. And you're like, what? What's World Star?
It's not a good thing.
No.
You don't want to be on World Star. That's not the content platform you want to be
So I
hosted
went viral on World Star for my mom rapping. Remember that?
That's right.
So she got a lot of cred with the urban community. And for the urbans community that don't live in Urbania, you know. Or,
of course, Urbana.
Whatever. Urbana, whatever.
Right.
Who knows, Nick? Who knows? I don't.
Oh man! And your mom has been making a reappearance there with, of course, the Nana Names series. I know you've got some other fun stuff planned there.
Yes.
She's just such a treat to have on camera, man.
We are. We've got a lot of things planned for her and some other things, so we haven't forgot about it. We're just working behind the scenes for everything. You know, it's you gotta live your life, and there's times when you just can't make it to the things that you want to do in life, because life has decided that there's priorities. And
I hate when that happens.
I know. And, you know, especially us with a little priority of little boys who are going through toddlerdom and babydom, like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, it's lucky that we're even stepping away from our wives or our nightly lives to bring you this amazing content, okay? Like, this
action dads. We are action dads. That's the only way to put it.
Action.
He got the gong in, folks. He got the gong in. And that gong means it's time to get into, of course, the QTB podcast, I guess. Guys, a little bit later, we're going to be talking about of course, we have the situation with E3. The full cancellation, and I think the media's kind of had some time to collectively digest that news, so we can kind of talk about that, give our takes, and a little bit later we'll be talking about the Mario movie, specifically a person that was not credited in the form of Grant Kirkhope, who was famous for doing a lot of music for Rareware back in the day. Think Banjo-Kazooie. Think even some GoldenEye, and I mean pretty much anything with that spinning gold Rareware logo. Grant had his stamp on there. Oh yeah. The Donkey Kong rap was actually utilized in the movie, and Grant did express some frustration on Twitter and sparked a pretty important conversation about crediting especially musicians in gaming and the tough time that they go through. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation, kind of a springboard there. But before we get into it, of course, it's time to go around the horn here and talk about what you've been playing, Bruno. What's been going on in video game land? Have you finally rolled credits there on the old Breath of the Wild?
So, Nick, I recently saw a video of a guy who went back and visited Breath of the Wild and finally took on Ganon 5 years after the game had released. I guess he'd been milling around in the open space, and that's kind of what I've been doing. I finally defeated all 4 divine beasts, and now I'm just enjoying the time of Breath of the Wild before I finally make it to that final boss, right? Like, I want that to be the nail and the final nail in the coffin that is Breath of the Wild for me before Tears of the Kingdom comes out. So I'm hoping to kind of time those around the same time. The more I explore, the more shrines I get, and that obviously helps with getting more heart containers or stamina containers, which I'm doing pretty good, and I've got quite a bit of the weaponry and whatnot, especially from those amiibo cards. I'm super excited to kind of let those roll in there because that has helped progress the game for me so quickly. And I gotta say, if you're out there and you want to play Tears of the Kingdom coming up, go on Amazon right now and search up amiibo cards for Breath of the Wild. You can get all of them, a complete set, which is like 30 some different cards, and then you can use the amiibo once per day and essentially get yourself 30 some loot boxes per day. That's essentially what they are, like loot boxes from the sky. Drop into the game, and that just helps you. But I'm really excited for that as I look through the different mechanics of Breath of the Wild. I'm just so enamored with the world that they've built, and I find my favorite spots that I like to kind of hide around in. But I'm looking forward to exploring something new. I'm looking forward to being able to fuse weapons and not have to kind of play this conservation game of like, do I have enough weapons in my inventory? And then playing the game of like, I don't want to use this weapon because I don't want it to break. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm at that point where I'm like, I've got such good weapons, I don't even want to use them because I don't want them to break. So that shouldn't be the gameplay that you project with something, right? Like, you should be able to get those weapons again and play the game as you like. So hopefully with this kind of fuse ability that they've added to the game, that won't be an issue, and I can just go around fusing a stick and a rock together and go ham.
Like we were talking about it on the last episode there about how it's basically like Gary's mod, for with how it's just letting you just, let me slap this rock on and then like, or put 2 sticks together and make a longer stick, like basic stuff like that. Plus the freedom to fuse things together to create, rafts or and more importantly is actually add propulsion to things without having to have like specific things like you do in Breath of the Wild. Yeah, there's a lot to get excited about with that game. I will warn you, Bruno, if you're really trying to savor the game, please tell me you're not going to get all the Korok seeds.
Oh gosh, no.
Do you know what happens when you get all the Korok seeds?
I'm pretty sure nothing, right? Like there's nothing.
Oh, something happens. And the people that went through this, man, because there are there's like hundreds and hundreds of
900.
It's ridiculous.
900.
And you only need like a small fraction of that to get all of the upgrades.
Well, I would say, I mean, for me, I still have a lot of upgrades to go, so I'm still unlocking them as I go around, but I'm not like specifically like, yes, I'm going to go around and search for these. That's ridiculous. So what do you get, Nick? Let the viewers know, since I'm not getting it.
When you get them all, you go back to where you got the Master Sword, and you are bequeathed the golden Korok poop. It is a golden turd.
Yeah.
It is a
that
golden
little golden turd that you just
nothing.
keep in your inventory, right?
It does nothing.
Yeah. Yep. Wow.
It's so mean. Like,
maybe.
Wow.
Maybe the only thing that I can see using that would be apparently the master cycle. Whenever you unlock that, if you choose to get the DLC and you unlock the master cycle, it needs fuel. Mm-hmm. And so you have to open up the compartment and kind of shove items in there. it would be amazing if once you entered the golden turd into the motorcycle that it was like fueled forever. Like
For
that's
eternity.
its only purpose is to go
That's
into
genius.
that. That would be.
I love
that would
it.
be.
Well, okay. I mean, maybe you figured out something that no one else did, but
I don't think so.
you're not going to get all the seeds. So yeah, I wouldn't let you.
What have you been doing, Nick? You've got to be. I mean, you know, with so many things coming out. I mean, and you keeping up with the stream. How do you find time to enjoy video games?
I don't play a lot of them, man. You know, honestly, it's mostly been boiling down to what I stream. And this week has been so much fun, man. You know, we had our regular games. We brought back Smash for one more night. It's not a regular thing that we do, but they do have the arena code you can hop in. And our viewers got to join us. And the reason why I did it is because we had a very special surprise guest that came in to our stream later in the previous week. And that was the official social media account for the Detroit Lions. So, yeah, they just, and I, you know, when I see him in the chat, I'm like, wait, exactly.
Detroit Lions?
The Detroit Lions. The sports ball team.
Oh, yeah.
They just walk in.
Baby.
And they're dropping knowledge about video games. At the time, it was Fall Guys, and so you know, we got into a conversation about Smash, and they're like, "Oh, of course, I had to mention the amiibo that I have," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we got every Smash amiibo, all of them, you know, even the variants." And I'm just like, "Okay, wait, this just reached a new level." And so they said, you know, hey, let us know if you ever do a Smash stream. So, you know, I let them know, hey, you know, Monday we're gonna run a Smash stream, and you know, if they show up, that's great. Oh, they showed up. So the rule that we have in place on the stream is that if you win 3, because it's always winner stays and then loser goes to the back of the line in an 8-player queue. Our rule is if you win 3 times in a row, you win out and you go to the back of the queue as well. And then you get your, you know, so that way someone else has a chance and we're not all just fighting the best person in the room fruitlessly. And they were the only, I don't know who the actual person, the name of the person behind that screen was. They went 15-0. With Bowser Jr., specifically Larry.
Wow.
Who is Lions colors, by the way, has the bright blue mohawk and the white clown car. So it literally looked like Lions colors. Very smart. And absolutely ran the table. We had people in there that claimed to be like pro Smash players. And I'm telling you, Bruno, they need an esports league.
Wow.
Just whoever that guy is.
Whoever that person is, whoever they've got it, apparently the Detroit Lions have been working tirelessly at Smash and you know, shirking their football their football responsibilities, Nick.
You got to get creative, you know, when you're at that point in the league, right? You got to find some ways to branch out. So they, of course, they sure have.
I like that. I really love that idea. I just love the idea of you know, a social media team getting behind that and joining something video game related. I think there's so many football players out there that love video games, and you know, honestly, and more than that, you know, right? Like more, not just football players, basketball players, baseball players, all that kind of stuff. Like I think video games in general are something that everyone can enjoy. And you know, one of the things that one of the missions that I really take seriously with Quit the Build is to basically position video games as more than just, you know, a child's game, more than just something for kids, right? Because I feel like that's the stigma that we get a lot of the time is video games are just for kids. It's you know, why are you playing a kids thing anyway? Like it's a you know, and I think that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, it's not like we're sitting there, you know, playing with a baby toy, right? You know, ooh, ah, and you know, Pop goes the weasel, right? With, you know, Jack in the Box every time we, you know, have some free time. We're doing something that requires a lot of skill, that requires a lot of brain power, a lot of thinking for a lot of this stuff, you know, especially my wife, you know, that's been watching me play Breath of the Wild. She understands that, like, you know, I come across these shrines that, you know, I'm like, I don't really understand what they want me to do here. And sometimes I do it the way they don't want me to do it, right? You find a way around it and you
can get really creative with some of those mechanics.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so, you know, that's one of the things I like is that you can play video games the way you want to play them. You know, you can choose to dive into things that are more up your alley. And if you automatically think of, you know, shooting games, when you think of video games, then you really need to be educated on the landscape that is the gaming world, because it's way more than just that, right? And it's more than just the tedious things of like Candy Crush, of just like tapping this, or you know what I mean, that aimlessly, you know, I'm not, you know, calling out Candy Crush specifically. I'm just saying, you know, some of those, you know, just tap games where you're just like, I'm just tapping. I don't really, you know, I just do this when I have nothing else to do because I can just tap. You know, those types of games where, you know, take no skill whatsoever. I think that there's a lot that we can gain from gaming, and it's more than just what's on the surface of you know, this is a kid's game. And I think it's important to remember too, you know, that these games are not developed by kids. They're developed by adults. And oftentimes they're geared towards adults. You know what I mean? They're meant for adults. And they kind of just tag kids into it, right? Like there are very specific games I feel like that are kid oriented, right? Like the Peppa Pigs and the Paw Patrols, right? Like those are the ones where you're like, oh yeah, this is 100% a children's game. But you know, to diminish something like Fall Guys, you know, of which I have still yet to receive a solo crown, Nick.
Really?
Can't get one.
Ooh,
cannot get one.
Too sweaty.
Yep, man. Too sweaty for me. I feel like Tim, and I really honestly don't want the social media account for Fall Guys calling me out
to start making it a troll thing. Yeah, that's not good. That's understandable. It might be more than you could stomach. And I'll tell you, Bruno, speaking of stomach, I just had a lovely trip up to Hershey, Pennsylvania. To visit, Hershey Park's not closed, they're out of season, but they had the Chocolate Town open, which is like the new area right in front next to Chocolate World. And we went to a restaurant called the Chocolatier. Well, when I went there, I got to try, where the whole thing is everything, the whole menu has some chocolate something. And I thought it was going to be a gimmick, but I got the Take 5 burger, okay? And on this burger, it's a Reese's Take 5 burger. It's got like a peanut butter spread on top of the burger, and also like thick cut bacon with like a chocolate caramel drizzle, okay? And a pretzel bun for the pretzel part, okay? So you got all the Take 5 components. It was the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in a long time. One of the top 5 burgers I've had of all time. But you know what? I'll tell you what was not top 5 afterwards, Bruno. What? It was my gut. My gut said, oh my gosh, can't handle it, which is why I'm super glad that we have partnered with Advanced GG, Bruno, because Advanced GG offers powders, supplements, and even canned drinks. But more importantly is they've just released their probiotic line of beverages, okay, to help promote gut health. So for burger eaters like myself, I'm going to need me some probiotics, exactly, to kind of keep my gut health in check. A very important thing, and they've got just the thing to do it because their newest flavor is amazing, and it incorporates not only the usual Advanced GG energy that you know and love, but you're also going to get a boost of that probiotic goodness. So check it out. It's right there on the main page when you go to their website, advanced.gg. And of course, check out all their other amazing flavors. And just there are all different lines of products. It's not just drinks, it's gummies, and you name it. Of course, you can use promo code QTB10 when checking out at advanced.gg and save 10% off your order site-wide. So get the dub. And oh my God! That's what I was saying in the bathroom. That's all I'm saying. Oh man, good bacon, but good Lord, yeah.
So I have there is a local place here called Killer Burger, and they have a peanut butter burger, a peanut butter pickle burger, and it's actually very, very good. A lot of people kind of get off put by the thought of peanut butter, you know, in a sandwich or something like that, but it is surprisingly good. It is it tastes Asian inspired, like a peanut sauce or something like that. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you're really tasting. And I got to tell you, I have one of the best combos I've and we'll get into a QTB Nights about this. I feel like this is a QTB Nights weird food combos that actually work. And I got to tell you, mayonnaise with peanut butter, it works. It works.
I believe that it works. I'm too afraid to try.
Most people are. And with good reason, right? Like it's but it just kind of adds a creamy tanginess to it. It doesn't really you can't overpower peanut butter. That's
Right.
the thing you got to keep in your back of your mind. Like, you are not overpowering peanut butter. The minute you open peanut butter, you could smell it. That's why people who are allergic to it just like seize up, when they see a peanut, because it's the vapors, Nick. The vapors.
Oh no, they've got the vapors.
The vapors.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what gave me the vapors this week, Bruno. And that was the vapors of once again realizing that our age is showing. This article coming from Forbes.com and our big story this week talking about E3, which has been completely canceled. Of course, E3 standing for the Electronic Entertainment Expo, which was scheduled to run June 13th through the 16th in LA, has been completely put the kibosh on by the ESA and ReedPop after a domino effect of publishers ended up pulling out of the event. And we had been talking about this in it's not shocking news. It's just sad news.
Yeah.
And I will say I'm glad that
though? Is it sad though? So let's break it down. We're gonna break this down, Nick, because I got a feeling that a lot of what we're sad about is that nostalgia filter that we put on a lot of things, and I'm guilty of it too. I am no different than. That's why a lot of times it's hard for me to go back and play some of the classic games if they haven't been remastered or updated, because I'm like, the controls were abysmal. Yeah. And there was no way around it. Like, for some of the games that you used to play, looking at like the new Resident Evil, was it Resident Evil 4 remaster that came out, and how amazingly updated that was, and how Capcom just really, and it's been like, the game's been released for every console since GameCube. Right. Yeah. Wii U, they did one for, now one for Switch, of course. But, besides the point, I think that, when we're looking at something like E3 and we see it go by the wayside, we're forgetting all of the mistakes, right? And the fact that we don't need that stage anymore to give us a trailer.
Yeah.
Because that's all it was. It was, maybe with an update, right? Like maybe, I don't think that people understand the amount of pressure, the amount of money, and the amount of effort it takes to put on something like this, not only from like the E3 side of things, right? Like securing the venue and then all that kind of stuff, but from the developer side, right? To have to take time out of their busy schedule to address a marketing issue that literally is holding things up, right? It holds things up because you've got to stop what you're doing and secure a demo, secure a part of the game that you can show. How many times did we see developers come out and lie to us by either showing us a demo that wasn't really being played, it was just recorded, or showing us gameplay that we didn't actually get in the actual game? I'm looking at you, Ubisoft, in every E3 release you've ever done where you ran it on a computer from NASA, and then you were like, actually, these are the potato graphics when it comes out, and we're like, well, this doesn't look anything like what you showed us, right? Like, I think that a lot of people are just sad that the fact that they don't have this like week-long celebration of video games. But I honestly think if you polled every person that has had to do E3 in terms of news reports, IGN workers having to crank out video after video after video for every trailer, for every little minute thing, I guarantee you no one's sad about this. Yeah. No one's sad about this on the corporate side of things. The only people who are sad about this are people who choose not to watch the Game of the Year awards or don't follow the director. Maybe some of the older gamers, even older than us, right? Who loved that era of going through of it, but it's become a clown show. Now what are your thoughts on this, Nick? Because you've got to know just as well as I do that trying to orchestrate all of this and compete with everyone else is just, it never works out.
It never works out. But one of the things that I loved very fondly, not that it would happen in 2023, even if this expo did go through, was like it kind of promoted some spontaneity in some ways. You know, I love reading or on watching YouTube videos of just documentaries on the launches of individual consoles or games and ones that flopped and where they went wrong. And one of my favorite moments in all of gaming history is the moment when Sega really messed up at E3 when they came out before Sony, and Sony had yet to unveil the PlayStation, or at least the pricing on the PlayStation. It was going to be Sega Speaks and then Sony Speaks. Sega came out at the time they were releasing the Sega Saturn, and their big bombshell was supposed to be we weren't supposed to release it for a few more months, but it's out today, which is a huge mistake because retailers weren't ready to put this thing out front, and it damaged that's a different story. But they're like, the Saturn's available for today for $399, a lot of money in 90s dollars. And they go through their whole spiel. It's not a great launch lineup, and literally PlayStation scraps their entire presentation that they worked on, and the guy that went out there, I think the head of PlayStation at the time, just walks up to the microphone, just says into it, $299, and walks away. And the whole crowd,
I remember that. Erupted.
Epic moment.
Yep, It was literally like, that's what it was. That's what you heard. Was just the crowd cheering and so much. I mean, to have to be able to pivot on that and take that loss, right? Because we've talked about this before. Even Xbox has come out and flatly said, we sell the Xbox at a loss. Right. And if you're trying to build a PC, this is the thing that gets me about like PC versus, console, right? PC's a master race and blah, 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 all this, stuff we hear about, it costs literally, 3 times as much, 10 times as much sometimes to get the same graphic capability that you're getting out of this little bundle of a machine. Like, they obviously sell it at a loss because they're getting more from software sales, right? They're getting more from other things like that. And I think the landscape of gaming is changing. It's just changing in general. And these live services prompt more updates than just a yearly E3 thing, right? And Nintendo started this early with Nintendo Direct. They would come out with a Direct and then another Direct, and then, all these little things that they would, do throughout the year to really keep the momentum of marketing hype in their corner. And I think for something like E3, it's just, like I said, it's a lot of pomp and circumstance. Nick, play the song. Do you have it?
I don't have pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, I thought for sure you had that on the thing, and I was ready for it. We need to have that
for the Best Beans Hall of Fame.
For the best beans all around.
That's great.
I mean, what do you think, right? Like, am I totally off base here? Like, with all the things that we have now, is E3 still better than that? Like, it?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. It was mostly just being lavish for the sake of being lavish, like you had mentioned. It wasn't, and honestly, these companies had to devote a very large portion of their budgets to having these things on the floor that would really catch eyes and try and bring journalists over and capture media attention. It's simply not necessary anymore in the world of remote interviews and just information that's easily accessible, like it is in today's day and age. No, it was never big, and you're right. I will say this though. The Game Awards has kind of become like one of the de facto places to announce a new game. I think that's really exciting, and it works in their favor, because if it were just awards, nobody would really care.
No, and I didn't either, right? I didn't when it was just awards, when they first started doing it and stuff like that. Yeah, and they kind of trickled in some trailers. Yeah. I wasn't interested. But this past year, with the amount of releases that we got, and of course the longest speech in award show history, we're making waves in the video game world, and it's worth tuning into. And you're right, it's more than that. So E3, if they want to come back, that's the real question, Nick. What can E3 do to regain some traction? They said that was one of the things they said, right? We're not gonna do E3 2023. We're gonna go back to the drawing board and then revisit it in 2024 with something better. what can they do to really change the tides for this? Personally, I'm hoping for like a Comic-Con type thing where it's less of a media thing and more of a people thing. More of a gamers thing where gamers can go to this and they don't have to have special press badges, right? They can go and experience these big new technologies and demos. Is that something that you'd like to see, or do you have a better vision for E3 and what they should do?
I think that's what you just suggested is the only route, because in any capacity of what E3 used to do, it's already being done better elsewhere. And it's not like they can pivot to be like, oh, well, let's focus on like indie games or smaller publishers.
Yeah.
There are so many.
And there's not enough money there.
There's not enough money, and it's already being done, I mean, pretty much as efficiently as can be with companies and expos that focus on smaller developers.
I know they do a lot of smaller things as well.
And there were big announcements at PAX East too. That was a very busy week for gaming news. So I think we're at that point now where, and I will say this article from Forbes even mentions that like E3 really wasn't doing super hot even before the pandemic caused the first shutdown. Back in 2019, there was a security breach that leaked the personal information of over 2,000 journalists and attendees. So, I mean, it sounded like the press was already kind of starting to distance themselves from this style, this methodology. But I think that'd be smart. We always want to have discussions or to talk to so many famous people in the gaming industry. Imagine a panel discussion like Comic-Con style where somebody could submit a question to, Hideo Kojima, or someone like that who just you don't get opportunities really to ask someone like that questions.
Well, I think I think ideally, if we're looking at the landscape of how these things work, I honestly think that's the best route. I think that is something that you're right. If we could, have demos of some games that are coming out, even if it's something where you've got to wait in a long line and, we've got a handful of computers and it's a guided thing, right? Where we, or a timed thing. Gamers would flock to that, and then you throw in merchandise on top of that with, vendors and stuff. And it could really become the thing that people always hoped it would be when they went to it. And I think that's where the allure lies, is the fact that they essentially are just hoping to get a piece of those early action, that everyone wants to be on the floor of E3. I myself have always wanted to go to E3, but not if no one's going to be there, Nick.
No.
Right? Like, I don't, and when you've got Xbox and PlayStation basically being like, we're through with that kind of stuff. We're not doing that anymore. You basically turn it from something that the whole company has to devote time to, right? Like, everyone has to devote time to E3. If you make it more open-ended like that, you can send the event team. You can send event marketing over and set up some, a booth of their own, right? Where they have a small demo booth. You sell merch, you give, some Game Pass stuff or, whatever it may be. And maybe it's a chance to play video games with the people that made it, or like you said, or some of the voice actors. How cool would it be to have some of these gaming celebrities just mingling around on the floor, or having a booth themselves, right? Or you can go up and meet Ninja, or you can, play games with Ninja, right? Or even something like the simulators, racing simulators. People would pay lots of money to go into it like an actual F1 racing simulator. And I think that that's a perfect way to move the electronics expo, right? Like the games expo into a space that is needed. Because I think that's where we're really missing out on a lot of stuff. As I watched some of these earlier videos of what E3 used to be, there were so many accessory companies there.
Yeah.
Showing you like, oh, look at all the hundreds of accessories you can get for Game Boy Advance. I literally saw a news thing on that. That I think there are so many things in the gaming space of like Control Freaks or Advanced GG, right? Where you've got actual products that gamers want. Give them a space for this. Make this the gaming expo that draws in the normal crowd, but also give the celebrities a chance to kind of shine and take center stage and get some praise for the stuff that they've done. I think it would be great. I'd want to see that.
You got me sold, man. I mean, hey, there's a vacuum here somewhere, so maybe this will be QTB's next big venture.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe we sponsor them or
I don't want to put that together.
The Quit the Build Expo. Yeah, we're gonna need some help.
We're gonna need a few bodies. Where's Terry? So I'll tell you, really interesting conversation surrounding that, and definitely news that was far from, I would say, breaking or surprising, but one that nonetheless did show up. Well, we got another story to get to here in a little while, but we got a big announcement here, which is that we've got a new sponsor here, which is our friends over at cdkeys.com. Now, Bruno, CD keys, when I think CD keys, I always think of the days growing up when you'd buy, the CD copy of a PC game and load it up. You'd have the actual key on there. You had to enter, or else you couldn't play the game. You had to register the product. Yeah. But nowadays, people underestimate the power of just keys in general to unlock and download games. And I mean that in the form of there's an amazing opportunity to get a lot of games for less than retail. And that's exactly what you get with cdkeys.com. So cdkeys.com, how it works is their website, you go on there and you can search for different games. Oftentimes the newer games that have just come out, you can hop on there and see if they're available. Oftentimes, if they are, they're available for $25, $50, as low as 90% off the retail price. And you know how these digital storefronts can be, right? Where like the game that you want, you have to either wait for it to go on sale or just bite the bullet and buy it full price. And some of these games like never go on sale, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, look at Nintendo, right? Nintendo is the perfect example of that, where none of their games ever go on sale, or maybe it's a game that just the developer, you see it on sale on like Steam, but it's not on sale on Xbox. It's on sale on PlayStation, but maybe not on Nintendo or whatever it may be. So this is the perfect opportunity for gamers to get out there and really see a nice big catalog. And it's interesting because so how it works basically is these companies send out massive keys to people, and obviously the $60 price tag is not what the game is sold to in bulk, right? Like if you buy bulk keys, and that's essentially what it is. So it's obviously there's profit to be made somewhere, in that $60 price tag, but with these companies basically saying, no, we want to get the most out of it possible, CD Keys has kind of stepped in and said, you know what? Here's for the gamers. Here's some keys that, are really going to be helpful for you to get some money off of your favorite games, and maybe a game that you've been wanting to buy, but, don't want to spend the full price tag on, or just looking for a couple dollars off, right? Like anything helps. I'm an Amazon shopper. So, if I could get something for $1 cheaper on there, I'll go for it. Yeah.
It is actually shocking, the savings that you get on this website, and specifically with new games, right? So The Last of Us Part 1, right? That remaster came out for PC specifically. Yeah. $60 title. Good luck finding that on sale. You can get a key right now, and it's delivered to you digitally by email within seconds of making your purchase. $42. That's a 32% savings. You can have
caterpillar eyebrows in the blink of a caterpillar.
They're gonna fix the glitches. I promise. Yeah, I did the jingle about it. He looks like his eyebrows look like burnt Cheetos, but a caterpillar's good too. Resident Evil 4, we just talked about the remaster, available for $45, and that just came out. And if you like live subscription services for PlayStation, Xbox, you name it, they've got a 1-month Xbox Game Pass Ultimate code on there for $6.79. So you want to talk about, load up. You can't stack them like you can with others, but you've got the code. You just have to redeem it when it's time. So take advantage of these deals, and my gosh, they're already saying you can pre-order Jedi Survivor, Redfall, Age of One. These are all games that haven't even come out yet, and you can pre-order your code for under $50 for a $60 title.
Wow.
So don't miss out on this. I mean, it's a really cool opportunity. We're really excited to be partnered with them. And you don't even need a code to save any money with us because the code is they are the cheat code. Yep. So check them out. Use the link that's in our bio to make sure that when you go there that they know that you found us, that you found them through us. That helps support us quite a bit. And we're looking forward to working with cdkeys.com because hey, who doesn't love a deal, man?
I do.
I'll walk through an Ollie's for $20 and just see what happens. I'm guilty as charged, man.
He's a big lots shopper.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay. So here we go. Next story coming from Eurogamer.net. And this is a very recent story that came out. So we're not quite ready to really discuss the Super Mario Brothers movie, but we are ready to discuss some, which is in theaters today as of this recording. But we are definitely ready to discuss an issue that has popped up. Now, of course, both Bruno, you and myself are millennial gamers. We grew up in the heyday of companies like Rareware, making games like GoldenEye, Donkey Kong Country, you name it. Yeah. And one of the composers that is known for just about any big Rareware vintage song you can think of is a composer known as Grant Kirkhope. This guy's done a lot. And one of the things that I would say he's most famous for is the DK rap, okay, from Donkey Kong 64.
We know what you're talking about.
It is an absolute bop. It's cheesy as all get out, but it's so much fun. And it was the opening to Donkey Kong 64. Well, this article is here because Grant went to an early screening of the Mario movie and expressed some concern on Twitter when in the credits for the movie in which the DK rap does appear. It is simply credited as from Donkey Kong 64 with no composers or names attached to it, whereas every other song used in the movie had a proper amount of credit given. So I think it's an interesting concern because I'll tell you, man, Grant Kirkhope is a legend and should not be just brushed aside in the form of from Donkey Kong 64. Like, what does that mean? I mean, Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, where do you even stop with Grant, right?
Well, so here's the thing, right? It comes down, and it is really difficult, and unfortunately, and this just goes as somebody who works in creating digital media for clients and whatnot. I don't get credit for the work that I do for these clients, right? Like, it doesn't say produced by Bruno, big shout out to Bruno at the end of the video. It's all about the overarching work that you're producing it for. And the credits don't necessarily need to dive in to who created the actual song because he was paid for that work, and therefore Nintendo and Donkey Kong 64, the whoever owns that IP owns all of those media rights to that. So as sucky as it is to not get a credit on that, we know, he knows, and that's as much as he's going to get, honestly. It does suck, but like I said, I do it myself, right? I'm a graphic designer, video producer, motion graphic, animator, and I produce a lot of ads, a lot of animations for, and I have for big companies like DoorDash and LinkedIn. And, I don't get that credit. It doesn't say who made this commercial, right? Or that type of thing. And even if somebody uses a song in a commercial, you don't know they don't give a credit to that. It was paid for. It was licensed. You got your credit in the games. That's where you got your credit. If he didn't get a credit in the game, that would be worthy of an uproar and stuff like that. And I know that we kind of live in this modern age where everybody wants to kind of be super nice and everybody wants to do the right thing. And, it wouldn't have taken them that much. I know that's probably the thought, right? It wouldn't have taken them that much to look up the name or whatever to credit that. Yeah, but they didn't have to. You know what I mean? They didn't have to. Technically speaking, the fact that they used the music in the thing and credited to that, it was enough. Unless if it was redone, if he really reproduced it for the movie, he doesn't deserve credit in a specific credit in that way. Especially if they ripped it directly from the game. Now, if Post Malone or Drake comes out with the DK rap, right, and just Lil Wayne's doing the DK rap and stuff.
Please.
Now, they're going to have to please do it, right? Yes, we want to hear it. If they do that, then obviously there's going to be an update on that. Mm-hmm. But if the credits have already been given, then they don't need to be given again, unfortunately. And there are so many, believe me, coming from an artist, I know I want to be credited too for the things that I've created. But you also have to realize that when you sign those contracts, they get the use of that forever, right? Like that's a forever thing. Unless it's stipulated where you get royalties every time it's used, and that's another rabbit hole of which a lot of people have done. You unfortunately are at the whim of whatever they decide to do. So the fact that he's getting media attention in this moment regarding it, I think is his credit, right? Like you've gotten your credit. Now, I know if Brad were here, he'd be devil's bradvocating for something else. Yeah. What do you think, Nick? Do you think that, what's your opinion on this? Because you're right. He has been the composer of our video game soundtrack childhood. So how do we do that? How do we pay homage to this guy without doing the digging and
right? I think the best way to pay homage to people like Grant Kirkhope is to know who Grant Kirkhope is. My thing about music and music in video games is that it's come a long way in terms of being able to know who was behind a particular track or who some of the iconic composers of our day is. Whereas, back in the day, like when you'd roll credits on like an NES or SNES game, like the credits for the music would just be like, Steve, or like, just like some weird like code name or something. Like I'm sure they had a reason for it. But, there's so many iconic musicians that are specific to the video game industry, as opposed to someone maybe that's tapped to come in and do work for a video game that's already well known. And the issue within that space, Bruno, is that they do kind of tend to get forgotten, and they get associated so much with the IP that they're a part of that, like you had said, you think, well, oh wait, Nintendo made the DK rap, and to a certain extent, yeah, you're 100% right, yeah. And who knows about the behind the scenes of what assets were used and who, what creative work went into it. There's a lot of ambiguity. And I think that a lot of these composers deserve to be recognized in some way. Does it need to be in a credits thing? No, obviously it did bother him, and that's okay. And a lot of people reached out and really consoled the guy and be like, listen, that's a bummer. But don't let that fool you into thinking that you don't have value as a composer in the space. I think of I love that Spotify, so many video game publishers have embraced the idea of putting soundtracks of video games. Yeah. Except you, Nintendo.
Looking at you.
How do I not have the Mario Kart 8 soundtrack on Spotify? I'm just saying. Probably because I would speed or throw shells. But I love that Sega has embraced that. Pretty much any Sega game you can think of, the full soundtrack is available on Spotify, which is, there you go.
That's what we want to hear. We just want to hear that.
We just want to hear it. And one thing I noticed about that is that every single track is attributed to Sega Sound Team as the group that made it. And it's the same Sega Sound Team from the 80s that it is in the 2020s. So there, but nonetheless, I learned over the years of Jun Sanue or Koji Kondo, of course.
Koji Kondo, yeah.
Right. I mean, Nobuo Ematsu that made a lot of the Final Fantasy music that we know and love. Right. I mean, there's so much.
And I think, getting back to an earlier topic we were talking about, I think that an E3 panel or a game of the year memoriam, not, and for people that have died, but, just for a look back and maybe some recognition, right? Like, why can't the Game Awards start awarding games of like the best nostalgic game this year or whatever it may be, and have something along those lines. I honestly think that there is a lot of room to praise these individual composers in the video game world for something like game of the year or an E3 panel, because you're right. I think that, songs like the Prelude of Time or, just the absolute bop that is this pause
That's
music.
Grant, by the way.
Right? Yeah. Hey, There you go. You want to know who jammed this? It was Grant. Okay, he came in there and was like,
Give me that xylophone.
What it do? We're gonna do it again. I mean, seriously. That we do take for granted. We do take for granted these songs and stuff, and I agree that I think that we need to give more praise to them, and I think that praise should be done on the award stage. That's where the Oscars do it. Although you may not get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff that the Oscars produces, because they show you the main thing, right? Like best actor, best actress, best supporting actress. They actually go through and give Oscars for everything, for sound design, for Foley artists, for visual effects, obviously, right? Like every aspect of movies are costume design, all that kind of stuff is given its proper recognition. And that's why I think that they can really take something like the Game Awards and kind of shift a certain portion of it and say, you know what? These people didn't get the recognition back in the day. We didn't have Game Awards back in the 90s. We didn't get to celebrate the Super Mario team, the Rare GoldenEye team for the amazing games that they produced. Why not have a special award that you give out, in a couple different categories, one being music, one being maybe, story development, game, whatever it may be, and, give these, golden blimps, right? I think about the golden blimp from the Nickelodeon Choice Awards,
they're
right?
Still giving it out. Yeah.
Oh, they're still giving it out to that one special person who they're like, this person was a champion for kids this year, or, this person's a good role model. Like, woohoo. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And I think if we did that, we would really have less of these moments where we're like, yeah, it would have been nice to have my name up there and something that I did, but instead of just Sega Sound Team or Nintendo soundtrack, right? Because essentially at the end of the day, that's what he is, right?
Sure.
Like I am not an individual with the stuff that I produce for my clients, for my job. I am part of the marketing team. Or part of the design team or whatever it may be. And it's just like, oh yeah, marketing did that or design did that. And it's like, there you go. You get collectively lumped in with everyone because everyone's eyes had to be on it. And someone had to approve that DK rap, Nick.
They did.
Somebody in a boardroom was like, this is a banger. Put this on the top shelf. You know what? We're going to enter the game with it, okay? Forget aquatic ambience. We don't want that. Trade it in for the DK rap, okay?
It's going to sell copies, man. We're still talking about it all these years later. It's amazing. Well said. I think one of the coolest things about, and one thing I think the industry is trending in that direction, like I had mentioned, of properly recognizing, I love that at the end of the penultimate thing to happen at the Game Awards is the orchestra providing a rendition of the Game of the Year awards. And I can't imagine how cool it could be to be one of the people that produced it, especially for an indie title for a game like, Hades, for example, that makes the cut, and hearing your music as part of this sweeping orchestra alongside AAA titles like God of War is a really cool thing. And I'll tell you, Bruno, I'm hoping that maybe they'll add a best gaming community category, or at least one, to I don't know, one. They probably have it. They just don't show it for the main awards, because who has the best community in games?
I'm gonna think it's Quit the Build, and
Yes.
I got some
Yes.
Quit the Bill community music for you. Here it is.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yes, I'll accept this award because we really do have one of the best communities in gaming, guys. The best community in gaming. All about being positive, inclusive, and having fun playing games. We'd love for you to join it. The fun does not stop when the podcast stops playing. And if you want to be part of it, make sure you visit our website, quitthebuild.com. Is your one-stop shop for all things QTB. Stop on by. You can even scroll to the bottom of that page and join our growing Discord community with the link right there. We're playing games, we're hanging out, we're having a good time. We've got memes. Who doesn't these days? But ours are extra spicy. Now, in addition to that, also make sure you check us out on Patreon because, guys, our Patreon supporters are going above and beyond. We appreciate the support. I'm talking about our QTB and Fuego supporters like Epic Capture Productions, Matt.Bat, Caitlin, Courtney, Megan, Ashley, Andrea, and our newest QTB and Fuego supporter, Cassandra K. Thank you so much for your support. Yes. And our QTB Plus supporters, Nick, the Dudist Monk, Indie Gamiacs, Alan Abadessa, Mr. Grove Games, The Intergalactic Pinecone, Fluffy, Terry the Kitten, and Maddie. Also a shout out to Maeve, one of our newest base QTB supporters. Thank you for that support as well. Been a good week for us. And yeah, guys, check it out at patreon.com/quitthebuild. The link is in our show notes or bio if you're watching on YouTube. And you can support us for as little as $2 a month. $2 a month. I'm telling you what, it's something special. Yeah, you know, get in touch with all things QTB. Our blog has been humming lately. Thanks to the podcast collective there. They have been working very hard behind the scenes to get all sorts of and really awesome content to check out there across a wide variety of topics, and more blog articles are on the way. So make sure to check them out. And
I loved hanging out with James. The previous podcast, really great guy. Loved the work that he and his crew are doing for the blog, and you know it's just really well written, and it's about time that we had some fresh perspective on there. Yeah. And like I said, just love it. So I'm really glad that everyone's enjoying the website. We've seen a increase on that, so we thank you so much for checking it out and just being a part of the community. It really does mean a lot to us to see everything grow, especially from us. Just, you know, this is how it started, right? It was just me and Nick talking to each other, you know, wondering if anybody was going to hear it. And then here we are, you know, a couple years later, and Nick has become the de facto TikTok Weird Al. Weird Ben. I don't know.
Weird Nick.
Weird Ben Shapiro,
at this point, yeah. Well, yeah, I get the Ben thing a lot.
I know.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But you know, it's really been amazing. So thank you guys so much. We really do work hard behind the scenes, and we are super excited every time we get any type of support anywhere on the channel. So we're always sharing that with each other and dishing about you guys. So thank you so much for making that amazing. Nick,
yes,
what do you got for the people?
That's all I got, man. We have to do the thing where you end it. Okay. You're the guy that does that.
I am the guy that does that.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so much fun. We just thank you for joining the QTB podcast. For Nick and the absent Brad, I'm Bruno.
For Bruno and the absent Brad, I'm Nick.
Peace out. What it do?
That's all, folks.
Quit the Bill.